So I'm out at the studio today on site in Apple in Cork with two leaders for the price of one. Cathy Kearney, who's Vice President of European Operations at Apple, and Kristina Raspe, who's Apple's Vice President of Places. Great to have you both on the Leaders Room.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So, Cathy, I'm going to start with you. We're here in Cork. Tell me a little bit about where the Cork operations are these days and how you divide those.
Sure. Well, we're sitting in our latest development, and maybe I'll come to that at the end. But we celebrated 45 years in last October, and we had a little party, and that was all wonderful. But obviously, we have a long history here, and the site and our operations here have grown and evolved over the years in so many different ways. Apple as a company is constantly evolving its products, its technologies, and this site has evolved and grown all along the way. We started with a small manufacturing operation, and now we're a very, very different place. And I suppose our latest addition is this building. We're delighted to announce today that we're opening this fantastic new facility. And I know Kristina will talk a lot more about it in terms of its features, but it's basically home to 1,300 people. It's our latest addition to the site. It's the most amazingly gorgeous building, as you've seen, and we're really proud of it. And the teams that are here just love it. And you can almost feel that as you come into the building. It's so warm and inviting and everything. So, no, it's been, it's a long history here, but I think, this building is testament to the people and that have operated here over many years and their contributions, because you don't get a building like this unless you work hard and you deliver. And I think the team here constantly do that for Apple, for our customers, and for our products.
And how many people be here?
In total, across the entire facility, there were 6,000 people. So it's a very big campus, obviously. It's full of diversity. We support 130 different countries. We ship across 50 different countries directly. And then, the activities here are really diverse, operations, finance, manufacturing, every piece of Apple globally, there's a little bit of, the same in this facility, and, it constantly evolves and grows. So it's really exciting. We're thrilled with this building. We're thrilled with this investment by Apple, and it's really a testament to the teams here.
And Kristina, if I can turn to you, you're Vice President for Places, so really you're in charge of the footprint of Apple throughout the world, am I right?
That's right.
So tell me a little bit about where, Ireland fits into, and where Cork in particular fits in, and maybe a little bit about the physical
Sure. Cork is one of our largest campuses in the world, one of the largest, actually the largest outside of the United States. So it's a very important campus for us. As Cathy mentioned, it started with one building and slowly kind of added building after building, but it didn't really have a campus design and a campus feel. So before we built this building, we put together a master plan for the site, and we kind of repositioned how the whole campus flows with this building by creating a beautiful spine that creates a pedestrian corridor between the buildings, as well as creating a transit hub to greet everyone that comes in by bicycle or e-commuters, giving them a nice place to warm up. And we created covered pathways and a lot of beautiful landscapes so that the campus really feels like a campus and functions like a campus with this building in Bright Hall.
Good. And we always on the Leaders Room like to get a little bit of the human side. So I'm going to ask you both, if you don't mind, a little bit about your journey to you. I think, are you 30-something years?
I am, yes. I'm one of those. I joined Apple in 1989, so I celebrate my anniversary in May. So I started in finance. I started, straight out of practice into finance, and then, worked my way through finance, moved to operations. So that's the quick journey for me. Obviously, with my career here, we talked about Apple always evolving and always different things. And I suppose that's the great thing about working in Apple. I think not too many people can say they're doing the same thing as you were doing last year. And because we have so many different functions here, people's abilities to move across different functions and grow their careers and have longevity and tenure. I have long tenure, but I'm one of many. And that's the nice thing about this facility. We have people that have just joined, but we have people with very long tenure. And that long tenure gives you perspective, particularly if you've moved across functions. And most people of long tenure have moved through functions and have grown their careers. And that really makes a difference. And I've been very lucky in that regard as well. So that's been my journey. Lots of changes, lots of differences over those years that I've evolved in Apple. But, exciting.
And Kristina, yourself?
I'm a relative newcomer compared to Cathy. I joined about 13 years ago. My background is a little bit of a windy path. I started as a real estate and construction law attorney. I did that for almost a decade, and then I had 2 children, and I actually took time off from one. And when I decided I wanted to come back to work when my youngest started preschool, I retrained. I got a master's in real estate development and a master's in construction management and pivoted to the business side. And so before I joined Apple, I was at the University of Southern California doing their master planning and did a big retail shopping center there, student housing, student cult building, and that really shaped my view of the built environment from a campus standpoint. Really taking a human, person first approach to design, really thinking about not only how people feel in our spaces, but how our spaces impact a larger community and the role that we play in the built environment that shapes everyone's lived experience. So when I got recruited to Apple, and Apple shared a lot of my core values, a commitment to the environment, a commitment to accessibility, a commitment to privacy, I really felt like I found my people. And so my career has gone from workplaces only to workplaces and data centers to workplaces, data centers, and retail environments, and then having more and more fun every day I stay.
Love it. And tell me a little bit, can I just get both of your views, this being the leaders room, on, for you, Cathy, for example, what does good leader look like to you?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think we're really lucky. We have lots of them here, which is fantastic. But I suppose, what do I look at, and how do I think about leadership? And how do I look at myself and think about leadership? And for me, it's about authenticity. How do you show up every day? And do you show up every day? And, do you show, I work as hard as I expect anybody else to work. And that's really important to me. Also, for me, what's really important is being really curious and driving that innovation agenda and really getting people to think about what more they can do, how they can push the boundaries, and how they can drive change. And that to me is a leader, in terms of really trying to, spot the talent and really develop them and support them through their career journeys. And I think, we're really lucky here, because we're lucky that our executive team really demonstrate those values that are really important to Apple. So, our commitment to the environment, as Kristina just talked about, our commitment to, accessibility, education, privacy, demonstrating all those as a leader, I think is really important in Apple. And the other thing I would say is, we regard ourselves as, a little village here, and that's how we like to operate as a village. And so we have so many people that come from diverse cultures. We have 90 different nationalities, and something we're really proud of and celebrate. And so for us, bringing that, sense of belonging, right? That you come here, but you have to come to work to love it. And so, as a team, we really, as a management team, we really try to focus on making sure people feel like they belong and they can contribute their best work while at Apple. And, the building is a part of that, but it's the culture you create. And that's what's really, really important. We have a strong history of volunteering. We are the pious volunteering group across Apple. Apple has a great benevolence program, which really, it's about volunteering, and Apple donates as well. And that builds community. And we are a village, and we try to operate as a community. And that's, I think, what I suppose good leadership is to people.
What you said, Kristina?
I agree with everything Cathy. Sorry, I'm going to add to it. I think one of the unique things about Apple is we all embrace a similar style of leadership. So it's not uncommon that we find that we're in agreement on things like this. I'm also very focused on, of course, recruiting the best talent, but creating a culture that is a growth mindset that's very focused on normalizing talking about mistakes, sharing lessons learned, and ensuring that we're all mentoring and inspiring each other to do great work, and understanding, especially for my team, that we are here in service to our customers. We're here in service to our environment and the greater needs of the world. And the work that we do needs to really be humble in that approach. And so I feel grateful every day to be at Apple. And I think as a leader, modeling that for the team and trying to inspire them to really appreciate the honor it is to do this work and to constantly be growing and evolving as we're doing it is my role at this point in my career.
And Kristina, when I'm talking to this building is stunning. I have this, just the lines is yet clean and the perspective. Design, I mean, I think following Apple for years, design is such a key part of what Apple does. How does that apply to then the built space?
It's very much the same care and commitment and focus on every little detail that you see in our products flows through to the design of our places as well. Our full job is to create spaces that not only enable but inspire and empower our teams to do their life's best work in service to our customers. And so we really look to create environments that stimulate innovation, that stimulate collaboration. And so you'll see a use of a lot of natural materials. You'll see a lot of natural light. You have the natural ventilation system, so you're getting the natural light, the fresh air, the biophilia. The inside fades to the outside so easily with all of the glass. Being surrounded in nature and with all the fresh air really creates this organic calm that enables you to be incredibly creative. And so that's our goal in the design. And like I said, it's very similar to the creation of our products. We want our designs to be intuitive and seamless and elegant and inspiring.
I love that. I'm a great proponent of biophilia. So I'm so glad you mentioned that because you get that feeling when you're looking out over the hills. So I do want to come back to you, Cathy. As you know, we do this podcast in partnership with IDA Ireland. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about the relationship over the years. I'm sure it's a long relationship, but how they support you these days.
Yeah. It is a long relationship and a very, very long established relationship. And I smile because, one of the things you said in terms of good leadership is the feedback leads and everything else. I have been very strong in my feedback to IDA over the years, but honestly, they're an amazing partner. And I would have to say that having them there in our corner has been amazing over the years. And it's a two-way street. They really have responded and they do their best every single day on our behalf. And I know the people in the IDA, they all know me. But no, it's a very long established relationship and they do a great job, and I think for Ireland Inc., if you use that terminology, they absolutely do a really, really great job at the gate.
So you just recently opened an office in Dublin. You called what? Tell me a little bit about it.
We are going to open our permanent office in Dublin later this year, and that's going to house 300 people. And we're, the team there are really looking forward to it. So we have a temporary location in Dublin, an office. We started hiring, and so we have some people there already. And the plan is that over time we will, first of all, we'll move into the new location, which is in the city centre. It's close to the Ivy Gardens, and is a really exciting location. The team were really excited about it. And then, we gradually have been evolving our teams there anyway, and that will continue. And really, it's a complementary location to this facility. And our focus to date with the teams there, so, we're back and forth with the teams all the time. They're great. Our focus with the teams there is really, building the Apple culture, making sure we're starting that office as complementary to Cork. But basically, it's one organization working for Apple, working for our customers, and building that culture, making sure we're hiring the right talent, making sure we're building the right culture with the team there, that they really get ingrained in Apple. They're up and down here a lot. They come down for events and stuff. So we're off to a great start, though, honestly.
And what is the operation in Dublin?
So it's actually a whole mix of things, and that's why it really is complementary to here. It's basically a whole mix of activities. That's probably the best way to describe it. It isn't one big team, taking over the whole thing or anything else like that. It's actually a whole mix of different teams. And it's off to a great start.
We always try and look to the future as well.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit, if you're looking at Apple, Cathy, what you all awake at night, what are you thinking about when it comes to the future? What are the technologies that are crucial?
Yeah. So first of all, honestly, I think, this building, this investment and the long history we have here And I don't say this facetiously, but it things don't keep me awake at night. Because I think the teams here have demonstrated and have built up the credibility, and that longevity and that tenure kind of helps that. But they've built up the credibility in terms of what they deliver every day for Apple and for our customers. And so that, do I worry? No. Where do I think, AI is going? And that's probably what's on everybody's mind. Honestly, we are embracing that technology. We see that as a huge opportunity for us, to drive efficiency across our teams. But then on the other hand, we support 130 countries. We support, the 50 markets that we ship directly to. But really, our focus as an organization, if you talk to any of the teams here, is on growing our emerging markets, right? We support most of the emerging markets in the world. And so that is a huge focus for us. And we would love to allocate more resources in there and to put more resources in there because they're challenging markets, right? And to drive the growth there, then we need to put more investment and more resources in there. And so that is our focus as an overall organization, as an overall site, and our contribution to Apple and to our customers in those markets. So that's, I suppose, the biggest thing I would call out. AI, I think, really exciting. The teams here really focus on innovation. We love to spotlight, if we see something in one area, we love to spotlight it, and it sparks, the innovation and the focus on, oh my goodness, we can do this. But that's exciting. The teams are really excited about it. And we have some really exciting projects going on at the moment that teams are just, loving getting engaged and learning and being curious about what it can do.
And finally, just the Dublin office would suggest it as well. And I know Tim Cook has always said it as well, but you're very committed, aren't you, clearly, on the operation in Ireland.
Totally. And I think, and I'll let Kristina answer this one as well, but, I think the best demonstration of that was Tim Cook's letter back to the Taoiseach, where he called, Ireland his second home. And that's a real compliment, I think. And we should take it as such, And today is a great day to celebrate our new building. And I'll let Kristina talk about, that process in terms of managing to get a new building and this level of investment.
I'll just say it was very easy to get commitment to invest for a new construction owned building in Ireland because we've been here quite a while and we have every intention of being here for much longer.
It has been fantastic to have you both on the show today, so really appreciate your plan. Thanks a million and congratulations on the fabulous new building. And thank you so much.
Yep, thank you so much.
Thank you.